Hello! Hello, it's Wednesday, December 10th, 2008, and this is WFTL Bytes, your occasiodaily FOSS and Linux news show with your host, me, Marcel Gagné. A kind of nervous host today because it looks like Linux might be under siege. So I don't know, should I wear the General's press hat or should I wear the pirate press hat? I think I'll wear the pirate press hat because I think it's going to work out better with some of the things that we're covering here. Here's what's going on. In the WFTL log, which is my online Linux user group, I'm setting this up because the first news story is going to take us there. But in my WFTL log, about 3 weeks ago or something like that, one of the people there was talking about his company putting together a care package to send to the troops overseas. So he thought, hey, these people down there have trouble with slow internet connections and so forth and might want to try Linux. So he decided to put in a live CD into the care package. You know, I don't know what kind, maybe it was an OpenSUSE, maybe it was Ubuntu, it doesn't really matter. He put in a live CD. Well, one of his coworkers yanked it out and threw the thing out saying that she didn't want to send out any of that propaganda junk. Well, that's just, you know, he was shocked, he was upset, he couldn't understand why the reaction should be so severe and so awful when, you know, people were sending, like, you know, much less interesting or useful things in the care package. But in another story online in the blog of Helios, he paints a rather frightening picture because he received a letter actually from a teacher of one of the students with whom he'd been in contact with. Here's the scoop. The student was sitting down in front of his laptop and he had a bunch of other students gathered around in front of him and he was giving a demonstration. In fact, he was giving a demonstration of a Linux desktop. And to any of the kids who thought, or any of the students who thought this was actually interesting, he decided to hand out live CDs. So he was actually handing out live CDs as well. Well, the teacher had a fit. She actually wound up writing a nasty letter to Helios, and here's where the letter is. I'm actually going to read this to you because it's really quite fascinating. She says, quote, "I observed one of my students with a group of other children gathered around his laptop. Upon looking at his computer, I saw he was giving a demonstration of some sort. The student was showing the ability of the laptop and handing out Linux disks. After confiscating the disks, I called a conference with the student, and this is how I came to discover about you and your organization, Mr. Helios." Anyway, or Mr. Starks, actually, because it's actually Ken Starks on the blog of Helios. "I'm sure you strongly believe in what you're doing, but I cannot support your efforts to allow this to happen in my classroom. At this point, I'm not sure that what you're doing is legal. No software is free, and spreading that misconception is harmful. These children look up to adults for guidance and discipline. I will research this as time allows, but I want to assure you that if you're doing anything illegal, I will pursue the charges as the law allows, Mr. Starks. I, along with many others, tried Linux during college, and I assure you that the claims you make are grossly overstated and hinge on falsehoods. Sure, I admire your attempts in getting computers in the hands of disadvantaged people, but putting Linux on these machines is holding our kids back. This is a world where Windows runs on virtually every computer system in the entire universe." Actually, she doesn't say the entire universe, but anyway. "And putting on a carnival show for an operating system is not helping these kids at all. I'm sure that if you contacted Microsoft, they would be more than happy to supply you with copies of an older version of Windows. And that way you and your computers would actually be of service to the people receiving them." Spooky, isn't it? I think you should go and read the whole thing in the blog of Helios. By the way, all the links to all the stories that I talk about are actually, you know, below the video. You know how this works. Anyway, let's follow that up to John Maddog Hall, who is writing for Linux International and, of course, on the Linux Magazine website, which is where the link is. He's actually writing an open letter to President-elect Barack Obama, who everybody thinks of as President Barack Obama, you know, despite the fact that the other guy, George somebody or other, is actually still in office for a couple of weeks yet, or a few weeks yet. Anyway, he writes a letter talking about how Linux and open source, specifically free and open source software, is actually a very, very good thing for small, medium businesses. Because this was actually one of the points that Barack Obama campaigned on, the idea that small businesses, which hire the vast majority of the people in the United States, and for that matter, in most countries for that matter, can take real advantage of the of open source software and Linux as well. And he goes on to describe how this is useful, how it should be used in government organizations, in schools, anywhere where it's being paid for by the public purse, and how it would actually help to build and develop small businesses. In the end, he also offers to meet with the new chief technology officer when Obama puts this person in office, and to describe how this can all work, and of course on behalf of Linux International. So it'll be really interesting to see whether the John Maddog Hall actually gets a meeting with this guy, and whether President Barack Obama, who by the way used free software extensively during the course of his election, will continue to do so once he is actually in office. Speaking of free software, and this isn't quite as nasty, although I'll keep it on for the last story here, Information Week has a wrap-up of 5, count them, 5 office suites that use free software, and how they compare against one against the other. Now, actually, 2 of them are the same thing, because one of them is OpenOffice and the other one is StarOffice, but you know, it's actually an interesting comparison and a good comparison. One of them is K-Office, the new K-Office 2 suite, which they come to the conclusion has a downside of only being available for Linux. Now, I actually think that you can get KDE 4 running on Windows these days, and perhaps even K-Office running on KDE 4 under Windows. So we should probably check that one out. He also takes a look at AbiWord, which isn't really an Office suite, but it's a word processor, which does a fairly nice job. And Lotus Symphony is his other one to round out the series. So go check it out, read it, see what you think. And finally, and this is where the pirate hat actually still works, it appears that the Chinese are up to something, or maybe they are, maybe they're not. Here's the scoop. Linux Magazine writes that the Chinese authorities are demanding that internet cafes toss out whatever software they've got running on their servers and replace them with red flag Linux, even if they had legitimate copies of the software that was there before. And the software that was there before, of course, might probably have been Microsoft Windows. But the point that the article is making is that perhaps there are dastardly deeds afoot, because of course the Chinese have a reputation for spying on their people, and you know, their human rights record, let's face it, is not the greatest in the entire universe. But perhaps that what red flag Linux is being used for, because of course they have access to the source and they can do whatever they want, is to add backdoors to spy on people and so forth. The article is actually even titled "Linux as a Trojan Horse." By the way, apparently the Chinese are charging megabucks, or actually large quantities of money anyway, for those internet cafes to actually even switch to the new version of the software. So they're making lots of money, and on top of that, they're not giving them a choice. So there you go. Should we be scared? Are we under siege? Is this a really bad day? Should I just have more coffee and forget about the whole thing? Definitely more coffee. Anyway, I'm done for the day. Be brave. And if you see evil out there, fight evil. Go out there, fight evil. If you see some evil, fight it. Go ahead, do it. Fight. Talk to you later. Bye. Coffee, you know, helps everything.